Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Today's session will be on using the Cloud Volumes for ONTAP for disaster recovery, and we're going to be having J.D. DeMasi presenting that today. We're very fortunate to have him with us. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate everyone's time today. It's scheduled for an hour. It will be recorded, so I have everyone on mute, but you can use the chat window for any questions. Just chat to everyone, and I'll help flag those to JD. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, JD, if you want to introduce yourself and get started.
Hey, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is John DeMasi. Some people call me JD. I am a Technical Customer Success Program Manager with the NetApp Customer Success Program. I've been working with Cloud Volumes ONTAP for about a year now. It's a product that's really near and dear to my heart, and I am excited to kick off a four-part webinar series today on how to use Cloud Volumes ONTAP for disaster recovery. So today's going to be part one of that four-part series, and it's going to be just a pretty basic introduction to what Cloud Volumes ONTAP is, in the basics of getting it running and getting it configured for disaster recovery from your on-premises NetApp ONTAP systems. So here's the agenda for the session today. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about just an overview of what Cloud Volumes ONTAP is. I'm going to talk about the way that we sell it and the way that the licensing works. I'm going to talk about how it's deployed for a moment, and then I'm actually going to go into a simulator and demonstrate a full deployment from scratch and how to connect it to an on-premises ONTAP system and configure replication from your on-prem system into Cloud Volumes ONTAP in the cloud. So the intended audience for this webinar is for people who are using on-premises NetApp today, are running ONTAP, and are interested or curious about using Cloud Volumes ONTAP for AWS or Azure as part of their disaster recovery strategy. A quick note, some of you may recall a product called ONTAP Cloud from the NetApp portfolio recently. That is Cloud Volumes ONTAP. We actually renamed ONTAP Cloud to Cloud Volumes ONTAP, I believe, a month or two ago. So I just wanted to get ahead of any confusion there. Yeah, if you were familiar with ONTAP Cloud from before, Cloud Volumes ONTAP is the same exact thing. So with that note, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the overview of what Cloud Volumes ONTAP is. So you probably noticed ONTAP is in the name of the product. That's because Cloud Volumes ONTAP is ONTAP. So I'd be remiss if I didn't take at least a few minutes to talk about what ONTAP is. I know the target audience for this presentation is hopefully well aware of ONTAP, but figure let's just take a couple of minutes and go over the features, since the features for Cloud Volumes ONTAP are identical. So ONTAP, it is NetApp's bread and butter. It is really the cornerstone of just about everything we do at NetApp. It's the #1 storage operating system in the world. We've been selling it since 1992. It's proven itself to be a reliable platform for enterprise in the last 25 years. Many Fortune 500 companies use ONTAP. Two of the big key features are that it's a unified platform for all of your SAN and your NAS protocols, and that we have awesome snapshot technology, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So I'm sure that we've all seen just about every storage vendor has some kind of snapshots in their products. You may notice up here that when we say snapshot, we say it with a trademark. That's because we were actually the first ones to come up with this term, and our version of this technology is, as far as I know, unparalleled. So when we create snapshots on using ONTAP, those snapshots are created instantly. They're non-disruptive. And this is really the coolest part. Your first snapshot of a volume takes up no additional storage capacity. and then any additional snapshots. After that first snapshot, only save blocks that have changed since the first snapshot. You could take snapshots of any size volume, and you could take up to 255 per volume. And of course, they're backup data copies. You can restore to them instantly, and having 255 per volume gives you a lot of flexibility to roll back any changes in your system. They're extremely useful. Another key feature of ONTAP that's also going to be really important for Cloud Volumes ONTAP is SnapMirror. It's our native replication technology. It's an extremely efficient method for replicating data. It actually only replicates change data, so it saves you a lot of time and bandwidth, and it's integrated with our storage efficiencies. So we're sending the smallest amount of data possible while keeping your replication relationship alive and ensuring that your data is where you need it to be. Another great ONTAP feature that's also important for Cloud Volumes ONTAP is our FlexClone technology. A really simple way to explain it is that it's just a writable snapshot. So we take an instant clone of the volume that you want to clone the same way we would for a snapshot, zero performance penalty, no additional capacity, and yeah, you can create those instantly, write them, and you can create a whole bunch of them for each volume. Extremely useful for test dev or any application where you want to have multiple copies of a volume that your teams can write to and play with. Now, ONTAP also has storage efficiencies that save you space. These are really useful, especially in the world of cloud, where your storage capacity is really at a premium. So we already talked about snapshots and FlexClones, but it's worth just mentioning that ONTAP supports block-level deduplication. So we're not just deduping the files on your system. We're actually looking at the individual data blocks and making sure that we're not storing any of those blocks more than once. And then we're compressing your data, if possible, to reduce its capacity footprint. And we're actually able to fit multiple files into each 4K block that we're writing to make sure that you're making the most efficient use possible of your valuable storage capacity. One last ONTAP feature I wanted to mention that's important for Cloud Volumes ONTAP is FabricPool. Now, this is a really neat feature that lets you use high-performance storage more efficiently by combining your performance tier and your capacity tier, or however you want to think about it, into one storage pool. And then we're automatically moving data to the tier that it needs to be on based on how you're utilizing that data. For example, with the setup on the slide, maybe you have an all-flash array on premises, and then you're just keeping archive data in the cloud. Cold data would go to the cloud, and then when you try to access it on your system to work on it, we would transfer it to your all-flash system so that you get that better performance while you're using it. When you're done, automatically put it back into your capacity tier on the cloud. Cool, so that's a quick and dirty run-through of the key features and benefits of ONTAP. So what is Cloud Volumes ONTAP? Like I said, it is quite simply just a fully fledged version of ONTAP that's running natively in the public cloud and using native cloud storage and native cloud compute resources. It's quite honestly that simple. If you thought about it and explained it that way, you'd have a pretty good understanding of the product. Other key points are that, again, it's ONTAP, so we're using the same ONTAP tools and processes. If you're familiar with ONTAP, you should not have much trouble getting started with Cloud Volumes ONTAP. Another cool thing is that we're taking a proven 25-year-old storage technology that has worked, for years for enterprises on-prem, and we're moving it into an innovative, cloud-based delivery mechanism that lets you take advantage of cloud economics and all the cool things about working in the public cloud that so many customers like. And again, this is proven technology. We've been offering Cloud Volumes ONTAP, formerly ONTAP Cloud, since 2014. hundreds of customers have successfully used it. It's nothing new. You can trust it to be reliable, and it's not like you are the first person to be using it. We've been selling it and using it for years. And one other cool feature that's kind of different, and again, this is the introductory webinar. In about a month, we're going to have part 2 where we dig a little deeper into the architecture of Cloud Volumes ONTAP and, the real way that all this stuff comes together and works. I think it's worth calling out in this webinar, even though we're not going to go any deeper into the concept, that we do offer multi-availability zone, high availability in AWS, which essentially lets you fail over between AWS data centers in the event of an AWS outage, which is really great for enterprise applications or anything business critical that you want to know is going to be available. Okay. So,
hey, JD, you have a quick question in the chat.
Yeah, please.
Anyone wants to know if the FabricPool can be used for both NAS and SAN?
That's a good question. I believe so. I'll make sure that we discuss that topic in more detail in part 2.
Thank you.
Okay. So, use cases for Cloud Volumes ONTAP. Obviously, we know disaster recovery. That's what we're here today to discuss. But Cloud Volumes ONTAP is actually a great fit for many different enterprise workloads. If you just need file services in the clouds, we have multi-protocol support for CIFS and NFS. You get to take advantage of storage efficiencies to reduce your cloud storage footprint. For DevOps and test dev, also a great fit. FlexClones are extremely useful for that use case. And with the flexibility of cloud resources, you can add and remove Cloud Volumes ONTAP resources as you need on an on-demand basis. The last use case I'd want to mention before we get to DR is just lift and shift. If you have an application that's running on an ONTAP system on premises that you want to move into the cloud, why not move it to ONTAP running in the cloud? We can support high-performance applications, and for anything business critical, you do have the option of multi-availability zone HA to make sure that those business critical applications are always available to you and your users. Okay, finally, digging into why Cloud Volumes ONTAP is a great fit for your DR strategy from an on-premises ONTAP system. So first of all, and I know we're reiterating here, but again, this is just ONTAP running in AWS or Azure. So if your team is comfortable working with ONTAP, if your applications are architected for ONTAP, why not just replicate them to ONTAP in the cloud? And also, you get to take advantage of ONTAP's native SnapMirror replication on-prem and in the cloud, which just makes that connection really simple, easy, and efficient. Joy, I think somebody is giving us a buzz. Could you please make sure everybody's muted? Unless that's me. Anyway, another reason why Cloud Volumes ONTAP is a great fit for your DR strategy is just that the cloud infrastructure that it works with in AWS and Azure is itself extremely reliable. For example, the SLA for EC2 and EBS, which are the compute and storage resources that Cloud Volumes ONTAP would use in AWS, their SLA is 99.99 or 4 nines uptime. So that in itself is pretty solid. And on top of that, you have ONTAP's proven track record of resiliency. So this is very reliable infrastructure that's easy to deploy. Plus, you get to take advantage of cloud economics. You can turn your DR site off and on as needed to reduce your costs. You can scale your DR site up and down. And as you'll see later on in the demonstration, you can deploy your DR site and get your replication configured in under 30 minutes. No joke. Okay, so that was my introduction to the product and the kind of use cases and then my thoughts on why it's a good fit for disaster recovery. We'll transition from here into a question that I'm sure is on everybody's mind. How much does it cost and how do I license it, right? And that's very important. So there are two ways to license or two purchase models for Cloud Volumes ONTAP. If you want to go with the more cloud-like licensing and purchasing model, you can pay as you go through the Amazon or Azure marketplaces. This lets you save on your NetApp licensing costs and on your compute infrastructure costs by simply turning Cloud Volumes ONTAP off when you don't need it. So you can pay hourly, which is great if you have a flexible need. Also, when you purchase through the AWS or Azure marketplace, the cost of using Cloud Volumes ONTAP just becomes another line item on your AWS or your Azure bill. So, if it's really easy for you to spend money in AWS or Azure versus going through a whole procurement process, there you go. That's as quick and easy as it can be. For people who know they're going to need to keep Cloud Volumes ONTAP running 24/7, or as I'll get into in a couple of slides, I would say at least 75% of the time, you can also just buy an annual subscription directly from NetApp. We call that a bring your own license, and it entitles you to run Cloud Volumes ONTAP constantly for a year, which is awesome for people who know right now that that's what they're going to need. One downside to choosing that route is that annual subscriptions are purchased through the standard NetApp procurement process. So you would buy them the same way you buy hardware or anything else through the NetApp channel.
And we do have another question in chat for you.
Okay, please.
Anthony would like to know, if you turn Cloud Volumes ONTAP off, are they still available as a SnapMirror target?
So when Cloud Volumes ONTAP is turned off, it cannot be used as a SnapMirror target. And my PowerPoint crashed. Wonderful. Apologies, everyone. I'll just get that right back up in a second.
Well, it would never be a great presentation, a technical presentation with technical hiccups, right?
Right. But yes, so when Cloud Volumes ONTAP is turned off, you can't access the data on it, and you cannot SnapMirror to it. So, excellent question. All right, we are back. Apologies for the outage, everyone. Cool. So now I'm going to go into the components of the total cost of ownership for Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So there's two elements here that are going to be variable, and that's the NetApp software cost and the cloud compute costs, and one that's going to be persistent. But I'll go through all three. So first of all, you have to pay us for using our ONTAP software. It's just a simple license cost. This is either going to be covered by your hourly pay-as-you-go fee through the marketplace, or this will be covered by your BYOL license should you choose to go that route. Then you'll have to pay for the cloud compute resources that you need. This would be EC2 in AWS or virtual machines in Azure. Now, these two, you're only going to have to pay while Cloud Volumes ONTAP is running. Anytime that it's turned off, at least if you're doing pay-go, you won't have to pay these two costs. And if you're doing a BYOL license and you want to turn it off for some reason, you wouldn't have to pay for your cloud compute resources while Cloud Volumes ONTAP is turned off. The last part of the cost of ownership is simply the cloud storage that you're using. Primarily, you're going to be using block storage. So in AWS, that'll be EBS, and in Azure, that'll be virtual hard drives. If you use FabricPool in conjunction with Cloud Volumes ONTAP, you can tier your cold data off into S3 in Amazon or object blob storage in Azure. So your cloud storage costs will be some combination of EBS and S3 or virtual hard drives and blob. Now, these costs will be persistent as long as you're storing your data in the cloud. Turning the system on and off does not affect your storage costs. Only reducing the amount of disk space that you're provisioning will reduce your storage costs. Now, I do not want to spend very much time on these slides because I don't think they're very interesting, and quite frankly, this information is all available either through the AWS Marketplace or through our website, which I'll share at the end of the presentation. I just wanted to give you an idea of what the hourly pricing is for running Cloud Volumes ONTAP, and just to show you that when you do decide to go with an annual plan, you get about a 24% savings, which is why I suggest that if you're going to be running Cloud Volumes ONTAP at least 75% of the year, it makes sense to just go with an annual plan because you're going to end up paying the same as you would anyway. You'll also notice that we have different pricing tiers for our PAYGO licenses. The things that differentiate these tiers are the instance types that are supported, and we have the AWS pricing information here. So you're seeing the types of AWS instances that we support. Anyway, each pricing tier for PAYGO has a different total capacity cap per node. The most you could put is about 360 terabytes. This is raw. You can't use all 368 terabytes. You can use different instances depending on the price tier that you choose. Also, please note that the Explore tier, which is our sort of most basic tier, doesn't have our more advanced features like fabric pools. And of course, if you decide to go with a BYOL license and pay that annual fee, you get access to everything we have. So this is the price sheet for a single node in AWS. This would be someone who is not doing multi-availability zone, high availability. This is what the pricing would look like if you did want to do multi-availability zone, high availability, so that you could fail over between AWS data centers. Please take note, for an HA deployment, you're going to need 2 nodes, one in each availability zone that you want to use. So you'll notice the per node pricing is a little bit lower, but remember you're going to have to double that. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time on this. Here's the pricing for Azure.
Hey, JD, before you move forward, can I just ask you a question from Prasanna?
Yeah.
So he says, do you have both 7-mode HA pair and CDOT filers as physical storage entities?
I'm not sure that I totally understand the question, but everything with ONTAP Cloud is CDOTs. Is that helpful?
And Prasanna, you can take yourself off mute if you'd like to ask him directly. I'll forward this chat window to you too, JD, after, and we'll just make sure that we've got everything covered.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
In our next.
Yep, I can hear you now.
So you're saying there is no 7-mode concept? I guess, sorry, you have 7-mode and CDOT technologies, right? ONTAP.
Yes. So for Cloud Volumes ONTAP, you're only going to be able to deploy CDOT, and unfortunately, you're only going to be able to SnapMirror from a CDOT on-premises system.
Okay. Okay, so all the nodes here are CDOT nodes. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. And during the demonstration, I can show you the different versions of ONTAP that you can deploy.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So, yeah, here's the Azure pricing. Like I said, this isn't a super exciting subject. You can find all of this information online if you're interested in looking at it in more detail. Okay, cool. So we are getting very close to the demonstration, which I'm very excited about. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick notes about how the deployment works, and then we'll get right into it. Okay. So first, I'd like to introduce the concept of OnCommand Cloud Manager. This is a really cool web-based user interface that you can use to manage and deploy Cloud Volumes ONTAP. And you can actually use it to manage your on-premises ONTAP systems as well. Yeah, pretty much everything you need to do with ONTAP you can do through this interface. And it's great at facilitating hybrid environments. Also, it's a free tool. So if you have on-premises ONTAP systems today and you'd like to use this tool, which I'm about to show you in a demo, to manage your on-premises ONTAP systems, you can certainly do that at no charge, and I'll show you how to get started. So given that we know that OnCommand Cloud Manager is how you deploy Cloud Volumes ONTAP, it's worth just making a note here that if you decide you want to deploy Cloud Volumes ONTAP, do not go into the AWS Marketplace and search for Cloud Volumes ONTAP. The product you actually need to start with is Cloud Manager. So the best way to get started is to go to the AWS Marketplace through your AWS account, and I'll talk about Azure in a second, and find NetApp Cloud Manager. Subscribe to that offering and deploy it as an AMI in your environment, and then all you have to do is put the public IP into your browser or connect to your instance some other way, and you're in and ready to go. If you're using Azure, same thing. Go into the Azure Marketplace, find Cloud Manager, not Cloud Volumes ONTAP, deploy it into your VNet, and just connect to it.
And going back to AWS for a moment,
Anthony
would like to know, do cloud management tools like Cloud Health know about the Cloud Volumes ONTAP, or are they just managing the AWS instances?
So I'm not familiar with Cloud Health. I will tell you that monitoring the actual EC2 instance through your AWS account will give you weird performance results. A Cloud Volumes ONTAP EC2 instance will always show 100% utilization, even though that's not the case. And I believe we have it set up that way just to avoid the instance going to sleep. This would be a great subject for the next session. We do have tools that you can use to monitor your Cloud Volumes ONTAP instances. I'm not sure if a tool that specifically looks at EC2 would be helpful. But again, I just don't have a lot of familiarity with Cloud Health. I will look into that after the call and see if I can get you an answer, though, Anthony. Thank you for your question. Any other questions before we go into the demonstration?
We did have one other one maybe you're going to cover already, but Gerard Johnson wanted to know if an organization wanted to archive data out to the cloud, what would be the first steps in preparing for a migration?
That is an interesting question. That might honestly be an entirely different discussion. I'm not. You could use Cloud Volumes ONTAP for that, for archiving data. And I mean, the way you would start is the same way you would start for disaster recovery by deploying it. Yeah, I apologize. I'm not sure if that's helpful. But I mean, the first step, if you were using Cloud Volumes ONTAP, would always be to simply deploy it.
And Gerard, we can follow up with you with your specific question. I'll get your customer success manager to with you offline on that question.
Okay. Well, thanks, everyone. Demonstration time. So first, I wanted to show you all the NetApp Cloud Central portal. This is a really useful website where you can manage all of your different NetApp Cloud Data Services products. You access it by going to cloud.netapp.com, and then you can log in with your NetApp user information or create a new account. It's really easy to sign up. And this lets you manage Cloud Volumes Service, Cloud Volumes ONTAP, Cloud Insights, all the cool stuff that we're doing in the cloud all in one place. And additionally, once you sign up and register your Cloud Manager environment, you can actually access all of your different OnCommand Cloud Manager environments through this portal. So that's really cool. Just something that I thought was worth mentioning. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to begin the live demonstration. What you're looking at right here is a brand new Cloud Manager interface. This is where, like I said before, you deploy Cloud Volumes ONTAP instances. And this is also where you manage on-premises ONTAP systems and define the relationships between those two things. So a quick tour of the interface. Right now, we're on the Working Environments tab. Once we set up replications, you could check on the status of your replication relationships here. We also have a timeline of everything that's happening in your tenants. There's easy access to support documentation here and to tech support. You can get to our community. And if you like using APIs, we have all of our API documentation easily accessible. Cool. So I'm going to start this demonstration by discovering my on-premises ONTAP cluster. Then I'm going to create a Cloud Volumes ONTAP instance. Then I'm going to configure replication between the two. So I'm going to start by discovering my on-premises system. And the assumption here is that your system is already set up and operating. So we start by clicking Create a New Working Environment, even though we're not actually creating anything. And then because we're not creating anything and we want to discover something that already exists, we click Discover. If for some reason you created a Cloud Volumes instance and then lost it or had one already existing that you wanted to connect to, you can also just discover your Cloud Volumes ONTAP instances. This isn't strictly for on-premises ONTAP clusters. In this case, we do want to find an on-premises cluster, so we click that. And we simply type in the cluster management IP address without any typos, username, and then the password. Verify that your working environment name is correct. It should be the cluster name, which in this case is creatively named On-Prem 1. Click Go. That's it. We've added our on-premises NetApp environment to Cloud Manager. We can click into that and view all of the volumes that we have. And we can manage these volumes, and you can also access System Manager from here. In this case, I'm interested in my business critical data, and this is the volume that we'll be replicating to a instance of Cloud Volumes ONTAP running in AWS momentarily. Okay, so we've discovered our on-premises system. We've added it to our to our Cloud Manager interface. Now we need to create an instance of Cloud Volumes ONTAP so that we can set up this replication relationship. So again, we click Add Working Environment. I'm going to choose a single node deployment of Cloud Volumes ONTAP. I'm going to give it a name. Let's see, Customer Success Demo. Very cool. I'm going to set a password. And we do support tags. If you use tags in your AWS environment, please continue to do so here. You can add up to 4, but you certainly don't have to. And this working environment will be created in your default AWS account. Now, a quick note, I am actually using a simulator here. And the reason for that is just so this process can go a little bit faster. But just keep in mind, this isn't actually connected to anything if anything looks a little bit off. And by the way, even though we're clicking continue and it looks like we're moving to different screens, this whole process is actually just one long list. You can scroll up and down between the steps as needed. So after we decide what we want to call our environment and set our password, we choose the virtual private cloud that we would like to deploy it into. And the region, in this case, the defaults are exactly what I want. So I just press continue. Choose whether you want to enable encryption or not. We're going to choose AWS Managed Encryption. Very easy. Now, in this stage, you decide, do I want to use the pay-go hourly licensing model, or did I already purchase an annual license directly from NetApp? If you would like to do a BYO license, you have to purchase it before you go to deploy. You cannot purchase a BYOL license through Cloud Manager. You can deploy a pay-go instance, no problem. In this case, we don't have a BYOL, so I'm going to choose no. And now we give you a couple of pre-configured packages that you can choose from that have your EC2 and your disk type already set. For the purposes of this demonstration, I actually want to walk through the configuration, so we're going to do a custom one. You start by attaching an IAM role to Cloud Volumes ONTAP. The reason why you have to do this is because Cloud Manager is going to automatically provision AWS resources for you. We're automatically going to provision EC2. We're automatically going to provision EBS. That's Elastic Compute Cloud and Elastic Block Storage for your compute and your storage, respectively. And should you want to take advantage of data tiering to object, we're also going to create an S3 bucket for you. So that's really important. If we can't have the correct permissions in AWS, it's unfortunately just not going to work. Okay, so we set our IAM role. Now we had the question earlier about CDOT versus 7 mode and the versions that we can run in Cloud Volumes ONTAP. Especially for this DR use case, you're going to want to make sure that you're running a version of ONTAP in Cloud Volumes ONTAP that is compatible with the version of ONTAP that you're trying to SnapMirror from on-premises. I believe I include a link at the end of this to our interoperability matrix for SnapMirror that shows the different versions that work together. Generally speaking, if you run the same version in the cloud as you have on-prem, you're not going to have problems. So here are the versions that are available from 9.0 to 9.4. You can deploy any of those, no problem. And then if you're doing the pay-go route, you need to choose the service tier of Cloud Volumes ONTAP that you want. Like I said before, the main difference between the tiers are the total amount of capacity that they'll support on a single node, the instance types that they'll let you use, and then the advanced features that you get access to, such as data tiering. I'm going to choose Premium because I feel like treating myself today. And let's see, now it's time to choose the type of EC2 instance that I want, Elastic Compute Cloud. This is what's giving my Cloud Volumes ONTAP node its compute power. Depending on your performance requirements, this is a very important thing to choose. And if you aren't familiar with the different types of EC2 instances, I would refer you to AWS to look at what these different instance types mean. Generally speaking, R-type instances are memory optimized, M-type are multi-purpose, sort of balanced, and C-types are compute intensive. So I'm sure I'm going to get the question of, well, okay, so what instance type should I choose for my workload? And you know, you could do some research and come to a really detailed answer with a lot of backing information, or honestly, I think the easy thing to do is to get an idea of what the instances have and then just make an educated guess as to which one makes the most sense for your needs. You can change your instance type at any time, non-disruptively. It's really not a big deal. The only issue is that the most compute that we support is going to be through a C4.8x large instance. So we would just want to make sure that you don't need more than that amount of power. But that's quite a powerful instance. One other thing.
We do have a couple of questions coming in, so when you're ready to pause, let me know.
Okay, let me get this deployed, and then I'll pause for questions. So you choose the type of instance that you want, and then whether you want a dedicated tenancy or a shared tenancy. Basically, do you want the hardware that your instance is being supported by to be shared with other users or to be dedicated to your use? Choosing a dedicated instance is way more expensive, so unless you have a specific business need for that isolation, I would always suggest choosing shared. Okay, so after that, and remember again, we can scroll up and down through these if we realize we made a mistake or we want to change something from earlier. So you're also going to connect your Cloud Volumes ONTAP instance to your NetApp support site credentials. This is so you can get support for all of your NetApp stuff in one place. You don't want to have a separate support credential for Cloud Volumes ONTAP than you do for your on-premises system. And hopefully if you're using an on-prem system today, you already have these. So go ahead and type those in there. I won't do them because this is just a demo. Then we choose the underlying storage resources for your root volumes. When in doubt, we always say just go with the general purpose SSD, or as AWS calls it, GP2. We found, generally speaking, that provisioned IOPS is not worth the extra cost. And throughput optimized and cold, I mean, those are just going to be less performant than you probably want. GP2 is a good safe bet. And we recommend sticking with a disk size of at least 1 terabyte. Okay, and you have the option of choosing normal write speed or high write speed, which is more prone to errors. If you can't afford any errors, stick with normal write speed. That one's pretty straightforward. I think most people just choose normal. And then you have the option to create your first data volume, which we'll just skip for right now because we'll actually create a volume during the step where we set up our replication. Okay. So we've made all of our configuration decisions. Now we just need to review and understand the resources that Cloud Manager is about to provision on our behalf here. So, okay, we know that we're going to be deploying ONTAP 9.4. This is the type of EC2 instance we're going to be deploying. Shared tenancy. I won't go through everything. Just to confirm, here's the VPC that we picked. Here's the storage type that we picked. And we just have to verify we understand that we don't get support until we register this product. And we understand, this is important, that we're going to be allocating AWS resources in my account that I'm going to have to pay for. And if you click more information here, it tells you exactly what we are about to be provisioning. Okay. So that all looks good to me. I'm going to click Go. Now see here how it says initializing this could take about 25 minutes. It does take AWS about 25 minutes to provision these resources and get everything ready. We're running in a simulator right now, so it's instant. I didn't want to make you all wait. But just know that when you go to actually do this yourself, it won't be instant. Okay. And just a quick tour. Oh, actually, you know what? I will go ahead and stop for questions here. Joy, you said I had a few.
Yes, you do. And let's see, it might be easier. Rob, do you want to take yourself off mute and ask your question? Would you be able to do that?
So the question I have is around Cloud Manager and if there's any special networking that needs to be done within Cloud Manager to be able to connect to like an ONTAP cloud scenario as well as an on-prem.
Good question. So there's no specific networking configurations you would do within Cloud Manager. All of your networking is going to depend on the VPC that you're deploying into. And as long as that VPC meets our requirements for usage with Cloud Manager and Cloud Volumes ONTAP and has connectability to your on-premises system, it should be good. I can also send you the documentation on VPC configuration for Cloud Manager and Cloud Volumes ONTAP, as that'll give you a little bit more detail on what the requirements are and how to set that up. And that's actually all available right here through the documentation.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Okay, and then Alan had a couple questions. Alan, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me properly. I'm speaking on my computer here.
We can hear you.
Just quick question about LDAP requirements. Is that something that's required upfront if I want to leverage, the existing permissions from my Active Directory into ONTAP Cloud?
I think we'll have to take that separately. I don't have a ton of time left, and that's more of an advanced topic than I wanted to get into in this session. Cloud Volumes ONTAP does integrate with Active Directory if you're using CIFS, and we can get you some more information on that separately.
And in that sense also, since CIFS or SMB is not supported in ONTAP, how does that look? Is that something that I can map directly, like you can with Cloud Volume Services?
So CIFS SMB is supported. And
how do you map from your on-prem? Is it similar to what you would do with Cloud Volume Services?
Yeah, I believe so. It's an export policy.
Okay. I mean, we could definitely probably have some additional questions, but I just wanted to ask those. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I know we're getting close to the end. I want JD to be able to finish. I'm going to take one more call from Raymond, and then we're going to hold the questions until the end and make sure that he can get through his planned agenda. Raymond, do you want to take yourself off mute?
So, Raymond, I think I actually see your question. What's the impact of upgrading Cloud Volumes ONTAP after you upgrade your on-premises system? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, there's no impact, strictly speaking. I'll show you. It is really easy to upgrade Cloud Volumes ONTAP. You simply go into your instance, click the three bars here. Well, this one's running the latest, but there's a button right here to update. And, the most important thing is that if you're going to be snap mirroring between the two sites, just that the two versions that you're running are compatible for snap mirror purposes. And we have a matrix that shows that information on our support site, and I think I included it in the links at the end of this. Oh, actually, no, I didn't. But we can send that out when we send out the PowerPoints and the recording. As long as you're running compatible versions, you should be good. Okay, so we've only got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to jump right back into this and just finish up the replication. So just to review, I have a volume on my on-premises system that is called Business Critical Data. I want to set up a replication relationship where that is being snap mirrored into Cloud Volumes ONTAP in AWS. Very, very easy to do. You simply take your on-prem working environment, click it, and drag it over your AWS environment. Choose your lease that you want to use. Choose the source volume that you want to replicate, in this case, business critical data. Then you just set up your destination volume. So this is going to be creating a volume in my Cloud Volumes ONTAP AWS node. The destination volume for the replication relationship will be called Business Critical Data DR. I'm going to stick with my favorite GP2 disk type. We'll go ahead and enable tiering to S3. It saves me money. Why not, right? And we'll just automatically select the best aggregate. That's easy. And you have the opportunity to limit your transfer rate. We recommend that you do choose to limit your rate so it doesn't affect the performance of other applications or your internet. Then you choose your replication policy. We're going to go with a mirror policy. You can set up your replication schedule. I'll go with every 5 minutes. And then again, we have to confirm. We understand that we're going to be creating or allocating some AWS resources here. Press go. This little arrow here means that we have replication set up on-prem to AWS. And we can check on our replication status here. It's a healthy replication relationship. Everything's good. Under the timeline view, and this is going to look a little messy because we have a bunch of different tenants using this system. You can see all the things that it did to make that replication relationship happen. Those are the basics of deploying Cloud Volumes ONTAP and configuring replication from an on-prem system. It's really, really simple and easy to do. And that's the main thing I'm hoping that everybody gets out of this presentation. Since we got a couple more minutes, I just wanted to give you a quick tour of a few other things that you can do here that are really useful. So I just double-clicked into my Cloud Volumes ONTAP environment in AWS. This is showing me all the volumes in there. There's just the one that we created for our replication relationship. I want to draw your attention to the upper right of the screen. There's an off button. As I've said many times, you can turn your system on and off as you need it. So if for some reason I do not need to be using this EC2 and paying these license costs right now, click the button, turn it off. No problem. You can refresh the data, whatever. Another important one is you can schedule downtime. So say you're deploying this for a test dev environment and your test dev team only works 8 hours a day. Schedule downtime when your system's not going to be used, so you're saving money. Or, if your DR strategy only mandates that you replicate twice a day and you don't want your DR environment to be active unless you need it, schedule downtime when you're not replicating. It's a really easy way to save money. Besides that, and there's some more detail here. You can change your license type. You could change your instance type really easily, non-disruptively. You can modify your tags. For the question about LDAP and CIFS, you can go into your CIFS setup here, change your password. If you really like ONTAP and you want to manage your aggregates individually instead of having Cloud Manager do them for you, you can do it there. If you want to connect to System Manager to get that more advanced view of what's going on with this node, you have that option here. And you can also update Cloud Volumes ONTAP directly from Cloud Manager if you're not running the latest version. Note, you are responsible for managing the operating system of Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So it doesn't automatically upgrade when a new version of Cloud Volumes ONTAP comes out. That does need to be done manually. Okay, I think I covered everything I wanted to during this call. I think we have time for maybe one more quick question.
So Kishore has asked, does it also support force groups, user mappings?
I apologize. I actually don't know the answer to that.
And for those of you that have had questions, thank you so much for your engagement. We will be following up on the questions afterwards, and this is part one of a 4-part series. So some of them we may address in future sessions as well. Nadu is asking, does this support SAN environment?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So Cloud Volumes ONTAP supports SAN via iSCSI. It does not support Fiber Channel like on-premises systems do.
And this session has been recorded, so I will be sending the recording out with the deck and some of the reference material that JD had mentioned. Does anyone else have any other questions? You can take yourself off mute to ask if you'd like. And JD, I did just want to take a moment out to thank you. You've done a wonderful job presenting today. We really appreciate your time and your willingness to help everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Joy. And thank you to everyone who attended. Really appreciate your time, and it was such a pleasure presenting this information to you. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks,
and I'm
everyone.
pleased. Go ahead, Joy.
I was just going to say thanks, everyone, and I'll leave the session open for just a few minutes in case someone did have a question, but just wanted to thank everyone for their time, and hope everyone has a fabulous day.